Hey Sarah, let's take a look at your week 2 assignment 3 project here. This drawing overall is much stronger and much better than the one that we were seeing in the last assignment. The placement, the proportions, the overlapping, and even the perspective for the most part feel tons better than we were seeing in the last one. You had a lot of overlapping issues in that past one, and this just feels a lot better. There isn't as much overlapping occurring, which creates a more spread out composition, but you do have overlapping in place, and I think the more spread out makes it feel a little more open and complicates things less. So I think overall it's definitely a good thing. Texturally, I think that things are working out well overall. The metal texture here is very good. I think this wood texture is actually working out nicely. I think this wood texture could be brought out a little bit more. The grain could be pushed a little bit more. I think the value range is off slightly. I think the cast shadows are suggesting that light is coming from this direction, so this would really be the darkest valued side on the object, and then the other sides would be lighter in value, with this being probably the lightest. So I feel like you need to kind of configure the value range a little more than what you have. The rest of the shapes feel good. I think this actually needs to be a little lighter as well, and the color difference is slightly odd, but I think with the addition of just a little bit of colored pencil on the top of white, it would be fine. The other textures, like the stone textures, I think you just need to mix it up a little bit more. I do like the fact that as you're moving into the darker values, you're actually using darker stippling, which is good, but you don't have to be so kind of systematic about it. It doesn't have to be the same size dot. It doesn't have to be spaced out equally. You can do things like kind of make little movements, and there shouldn't be a ton of them, but I think that once you just kind of keep putting a dot after a dot after a dot, it starts to generalize things a little bit, especially when you space them out very evenly like you are in the lighter value colors. So I think randomize things a little bit, play around with your movement of your marker or the stroke, and see if you can get it to be a little bit less programmatic. And I think it'll work out fine. The value transition is good, though. I think that part is working out. I would love to see you cut your edges for the background, though, because that ends up being a big distraction with the way that it creates this stair-stepping effect around the more rounded objects, and just going in with that green and cutting this edge so that you shore up any of those kind of areas would really, I think, help it out a lot. With the cast shadows, the secret to the cast shadows is to not use black except for maybe just where the object is touching the ground plane. After that, I suggest using an 80 gray or even a 60% gray, because it's going to show the background, what's going on underneath it, a lot more, which is one big thing that I think really adds to the visual interest. And then two is it keeps contrast high, but it doesn't completely create this dark black hole of a color, which black tends to do whenever you lay it into a composition. I think black is just too strong, and you really have to use it sparingly. And like I said, I think in the metallic texture it works fine, and if you have kind of a shape just along kind of the edge of the shape as it's touching the ground plane is more than enough, and from there you can just kind of use whatever other darker values you want to. But the transparency part is really important, because that's just how real shadows work also, and I think it creates a really great effect, so that's definitely one thing that can help. There's just a few other minor kind of quirks here and there. I think perspective is good, but you need to make sure that your vertical lines are very vertical. They're not here. That's kind of one big thing. And then I think there's just a few kind of shapes that have some marker breakage along the edges that I think could be cleaned up a little bit more. But it's a great assignment in terms of kind of what we're seeing from the last assignment to this one in the revisions and the way that you're working with your mistakes and improving from them. And I think this is a much stronger drawing overall than the last one that we saw, and that I think is just a great thing to see in anybody, and it really is encouraging as we move into the next week.